Hey folks, it's Dave Waller doing my first Novice in the Pro. Excited to be here with my good friend Julie Esser from Ignite FI. Julie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
I know this is great. So, Julie, for those that the few people in the credit union community that may not know you, why don't you introduce yourself, everybody?
Sure, be happy to. Hello, everybody. My name is Julie Esser. I am CEO and founder of Ignite FI. We are an organization that helps fintechs break into the credit union market. We provide them with market expertise, strategy, and a lot more fractional resources that typically fintechs need to have, but they don't have access to right away. So we provide them with a lot of different resources to help them become successful and learn more about the credit union industry we're so passionate about.
Fantastic, fantastic. So today, the novice and the pro topic that we thought we'd address is business lending and what holds a credit union bank back from getting into that, and specifically, small business lending. And we'll touch on a bunch of topics here. But Julie, to start, from your perspective and your broad industry experience there, what do you see that holds a credit union back from getting involved with lending to business members?
Yeah, sure. So many of you probably know that I spent the majority of my career with the Credit Union National Association, CUNA, or what is now called America's Credit Unions through the merger this year. And small businesses have always been an area that has been defined as underserved. So and with the pandemic that we just went through, the research has shows that there's been an explosion of small businesses in the marketplace. I mean, I think that one of the lessons that we've learned in the COVID era was, our work life changed. Everybody went remote. Not a lot of people went to the office, which meant that a lot of people were kind of thinking about what's next in their career and opting to do either side hustles or just exploring the small business world. Actually, I kind of attest to that myself.
Guilty as
and
charged.
and and so, going back to my CUNA days, I mean, it's always been defined as an underserved market for credit unions to pay closely attention to because, they're quite frankly, they're just being ignored by the banks, the larger banks in particular, and they need assistance.
Yeah, that's for sure. One of the stats that just blows my mind as I support this space is that 92% of all business loans in this country are commercial and industrial loans under 250,000, and they're all small enterprises that are looking for this funding, and they really want to seek out local financial institutions. It's funny. I was meeting with an SBA director in a regional office the other day, and we were talking about the underserved community, and he said, call them underestimated. That's what I see. They're an
Mm,
underestimated opportunity for all of us to do. And I love that there.
yeah.
Um,
You know what? And also just adding on to your question, Dave, about
mhm.
why haven't credit unions gotten into this business? And I think, there's a couple of reasons that come to mind. One of them is on the regulatory side, right? So credit unions have had some restrictions in terms of how they can serve small businesses from a lending standpoint, right? Has been caps on how much they can lend out in things. There's been some loosening of those strings, so to speak. And the other big thing, I think, what keeps credit unions from getting in this space is just the resource issue that they have to deal with, the limited resources that they have, in just getting started in this space. And so, from their standpoint, I'm sure they're thinking about if we expand into another marketplace, how can we support it? And what additional resources do we need to have that, on a credit union that might be already strapped with those type of resources?
Yeah. So diving into that and peeling that a little bit there, what are some strategies that you think a credit union could take to mitigate that risk and that concern about resources?
Well, I think it's, we as an industry have always been reliant on partnerships, and this will probably be a shameless plug for Lenders Cooperative, but It's, look for partnerships that can help get into that marketplace. I know what you guys do, and that's why I like working with you guys and feel like you can provide credit unions those additional resources to not only get started in understanding, is the small business market right for me, but just get me going, right?
Right.
What are some of the things that you can do to just dabble in this space to make a presence, whether it is just establishing accounts. That was something that I learned when I first started my business. I had a hard time even just finding a business checking account relationship. And then there could be some other services that they can offer to those members that they might have to go and find elsewhere. But that leads organically into the lending space and what you guys do. And I know you guys have a program that can really help credit unions provide some additional resources to get going.
Yeah, and I love it when a credit union executive says to me, Dave, I don't know anything about business lending, because I point him
Yeah.
to so many organizations, us being one, that can help mitigate the risk and the understanding. And the analogy one branch manager told me recently that cracked me up. I asked that person, I said, hey, what happens when a business member walks into your branch and wants to open an account or wants to inquire about a business loan, maybe something that you do every day, like a car loan, but they want to put in the business name? And she snickered and looked and she said, somebody pulls the fire alarm so we all can get out quickly, because we just
Oh no.
don't know how to talk to that person, and we don't want to disappoint them greatly there.
Hmm.
So I think one of the things that we're seeing and that can offer is leverage somebody that can teach your teammates, how to converse and how to talk to these people in a way that doesn't go too deep, but deep enough for you to try to solve their
Hmm.
problem there. And there's lots of great organizations that can do that there. What do you think? What do you think the impact of tech is potentially to starting up a program?
Yeah, I mean, technology can make a world of difference in the credit union space, right? Because it can automate a lot of things, provide a lot of efficiencies, automate a lot of workflows and tasks. And so, yeah, there has been some gaps in modern technology as we see it today, as how I observed. So we've always had the challenge of integrations, right? And so the cores and the digital banking partners of the world and things of that nature, and being able to integrate ancillary providers into that space. But from other technology gaps, I mean, just finding those products and services that can provide those efficiencies for the credit union, right? And so making it easier for not only staff, but the experience for the members as well, making it very easy for them to apply for whatever they need to have, whether it be the work trucks or just some the small business funding that you guys offer. I think is extremely valuable, just to have some seed money to get going. So providing those resources, especially through a technology platform that you can just offer to your members, I think could be huge. As it could be a huge way to get started and an easy way to get started.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about the business model that we have that is consumption based and
Mhm.
doesn't require huge commitments by the credit union, to start using technology to fulfill these requests and these inquiries that business members have there. What are you hearing about SBA lending in the credit union space, Julie? Anything interesting?
SBA lending was kind of hot when it first started, and it seems like it's leveled off or maybe even declined some. I haven't tracked it that closely, but that's kind of what I have observed, from the outside looking in. It just seems like it's a nice to have, but I don't see too many credit unions advertised, at least the five that I belong to. that can offer me as a business owner that support and that expertise.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of buried underneath sometimes in the lending programs themselves. But what do you think, Dave? What have you seen?
Well, it's fascinating because we have 5 credit unions that we're working with right now to set up SBA lending programs.
Oh, cool.
And I'm actually meeting with one tomorrow in the DC metro area. And in prepping for the meeting, and they're very aggressive on wanting to get an SBA program created. One of the reasons is there is no credit union in the DC metropolitan area that is directly underwriting loans at all. They are referring them to a third party who then
Oh,
originates
wow.
them. And the servicing can be done by a variety of different people, but typically it's by the organization that does originate that loan. But if you think about the member experience where everything can go wrong in that area, you refer it to a partner, you may get, 1% or 50 basis points or something in return for making the referral. But the member experience is radically different than what the credit union wants to have there. Maybe a little more
Mhm.
aggressive sales tactics, maybe a little more demanding, maybe not as flexible as what the credit union may be able to do there. So I think it's less than 5% of all SBA loans in this country are originated by credit unions. And it amazes
Wow.
me, yeah, because their cost of funds is the best in the industry. I think it's something that we're going to see a renaissance in. And, the SBA is doing so much right now to make it easier for lenders, depository institutions in particular, to make these loans and maintain that guarantee. And then obviously good partners are what you need to ensure you're following all of the SBA
Hmm.
SOP, standard operating procedures that they come out with there. But it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be scary or mysterious to the institution. It's something that good partners out there in the marketplace can help you with, and obviously combining it with tech, which is really important, especially as we start getting into things like 1071, HMDA reporting for small business loans, things of that nature. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I know that you guys work very closely with the SBA, obviously,
Hmm.
but you've had a lot of experience with government issue type of
Yeah.
loans, right? The PPP loans and things of that nature.
Hmm.
Do you want to tell credit unions about what you guys have done in that space and the experience you have in working in that space?
Yeah, we are pretty blessed in that our parent company, Summit Technology Group, has a very tight technology relationship with the SBA and provides many different technologies to them. One of the ones that we empower is the disaster recovery platform. That if you are a consumer and are in a disaster area, you can apply to the SBA for a loan that is at an extremely low interest rate. Um, you can imagine right now with Helene what's happening in Western North
Right.
Carolina, Southwest Virginia, the Florida Panhandle area there that the requests are coming in. So we're really proud about what our technology is doing to help them. That's our parent company that has our relationship, and we don't leverage that relationship whatsoever on the lender side, but we are so aware of what the SBA is doing to ensure that we are as up to date and as we proactively can be with what is going on there. But we're we're seeing a lot of volume come in, obviously, right now with Helene, and it
Mm.
could be one of the largest um, disaster relief aids that the SBA has ever done there for the folks that have
Wow,
been
that's
just
incredible.
affected by this. So we're proud to
Yeah,
be
my heart
part of it.
goes out to everybody affected by that devastation.
Yeah,
the stories that I hear are incredible.
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about SBA? It seems like SBA seems like a good stepping stone for credit unions that want to get into business lending. Should they look at SBA's first? Do you recommend before they get into other areas of business lending?
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting question because I have one credit union I met with this week who is going to start with conventional loans and move into SBA loans. Then I have another one that wants to start with SBA loans. So I think it's in that credit union in particular, they have some SBA expertise on the board and some familiarity with it there. So I think it's difference to what skills a credit union may have as well. Do they have somebody on staff that may have done small business lending or SBA lending at some point in their past? That's one aspect to it. But from a risk perspective, with the right partner and right technology, SBA is natural because of the guarantee that comes with it. That ranges anywhere from 50% of the loan to 85% of the loan. So there's a lot of ways to mitigate the risk that are associated with that. And the other interesting things that the SBA loans do is there's a very healthy market to sell off those guaranteed portions, and that's a great source of net interest income if the financial institution wants to do that there. So I think there's pros and cons. A lot of it is the expertise, but if I think the risk can be mitigated. And this fear, I talked to a lot of credit union executives that have told me, well, I can't do SBA lending because my buddy at XYZ credit union, oh, he had one go bad. And the board went crazy about the loss we had there. And you start peeling the onion on it, it probably was something that happened that, invalidates the guarantee. It's pretty easy to do if you don't have the right partner servicing and helping on loan modifications and things of that nature there.
Interesting. So does, if I'm a credit union listening to this, this episode, and you speak about how some credit unions bring in somebody that has expertise, right? That came into the credit union to start that program. Is that a requirement for working with you guys? I mean, is that a first step for credit unions? Do they have to bring in somebody, or can they leverage a partner like Lenders Cooperative to help?
They can leverage us, especially on the conventional side. There are some expertise requirements that the SBA has, but we have helped our partners, and our credit unions and our banks, get that expertise to be able to, show the SBA that they have some expertise in the area there. And typically there's somebody within the credit union that has worked for a financial institution that did some level of business lending, which kind of qualifies for that there. But no, that's one of the barriers to entry that I think we can help with is you don't have to have somebody that's an expert in business lending on your team. When you combine our outsourced underwriting, processing, closing services, with the tech, there's a lot of risk mitigation that's getting there. And, our model is such that you don't have to do a tremendous amount of volume to immediately start seeing the impacts, the valuable impacts to your organization. So
Interesting.
really exciting.
I was really, I admire a lot of the data that you guys have too at your fingertips, to help credit unions in seeing more clearly what the opportunity is for business lending. Do you care to explain a little bit more about that to the listeners?
Yeah. So reducing friction in the process from the moment a business member says, hey, I need to borrow money or I want to buy your product. So reducing the friction from that moment to then all the processing that goes on inside the credit union and the back office to validate the worthiness of the request, the credit worthiness. Does it fit into my policy and my credit box there? The thing that we've invested in this company and we're deep partners with them is Lumos. And Lumos has taken 30 years of small business lending data and combined that with some proprietary data that they had access to create what's called the Lumos Prime Plus score, which tells you three things. It tells you the expected loss, the loss given default, and the probability of default for that particular deal. And it looks at about 40 different correlations that they have discovered. And it's a team of data scientists that actually spun out of Live Oak Bank down in Wilmington, North Carolina, the largest SBA lender in the country there. So those correlations use this proprietary data that they've gotten access to, but also local economic data, unemployment, and it looks over 30 years. So we've got 3 economic cycles in there to validate that. So that score is incredibly valuable to have a prediction of the risk. And what I tell folks is it is a view into that deal that you do not have today, that if you had an unlimited amount of time and resources, you could figure those correlations out yourself. But that's what the power of the computer has done to do this. So we think that once somebody starts using this score, they're going to see that that score is indicative of risk, as is the traditional spreading or reviewing of historical tax returns, historical financials are going to be in the marketplace there. Fascinating stuff, great use of technology. And I think this is the revolution to lending that business lending that we haven't had for 34 years. We've been looking at loans and underwriting them the same way for 34 years. And 34 years ago was when FICO came out. And that told us it told us the propensity to repay the loan. Does the business owner pay their debts? But it doesn't tell anything about the applicability of that loan or the ability to repay that, or if that business has a better chance of being successful than others. So quite fascinating. Quite fascinating.
So I think one of the considerations that credit unions should make about, getting into this space is the outreach, right?
Yeah.
The component, right? Because even if they do offer some business services, maybe a checking account or savings account, I don't know if it's really well publicized. I mean, is this data something like the marketer at the credit union can utilize to help with outreach, to be able to communicate these services to those small businesses?
Yeah, it definitely, the data is available. We have a set of dashboards that we can share, and I share them so many times when I'm doing education with credit unions and banks that want to get into the space or want to know, well, what are the top industries that are getting funded for loans? And it's based on SBA data. So what are the top industries that are getting funded for loans in my particular area? So we can show those things. And it's pretty fascinating to see. And it also looks at all the lenders within that space to see who is making those business loans as well. And even the rates over spread that they're getting on those. So fascinating data, very, very useful. So if I was a credit union, I would look at that data and say, hey, here's the markets or the industries that are the most, have the least amount of risk associated with them. What kind of targeted campaigns, can we focus on to go after those industries there to do that? And, that takes some creative marketing then at that perspective. Is there a particular group that caters to those? Is there particular marketing tactics that are going to be most applicable to those types of people there? What stimuluses will they react to there? But the data is there for the institution to figure out. And that's one of the things we can help with, is sharing that information.
Oh,
So
that's amazing. And one word that you mentioned was impact, right? And so especially like CDFI-based credit unions that have this designation to outreach to underserved communities, business services is one of them, right? So they can use this data and leverage it, right, to be able to demonstrate and show their impact to the communities that they serve, right?
Exactly. Absolutely there. So we can show you industries that do very well in the geography that business potentially is in. So one of the credit unions we're working with right now to set up their SBA program, they have a particular demographic that they want to support. And one of the things they want to use SBA loans to offer to these business members is to purchase businesses or to create a business. And they're going to be able to be a trusted advisor with these business members when somebody comes in and says, hey, my dream is to do the XYZ business in my hometown. And the business banker at this credit union is going to be able to say, I know it's your dream and I know you want to do it in your town, but businesses like that have a very high probability of failing in your community, but they don't in the bigger town or in these parts of the country. So if you have a passion for that, would it make more sense for you to consider doing something in that area? Or have you thought about these industries that might be, that have a need and a demand in your particular domain where you live to do that? Such power in having those conversations, and things that credit unions are so good at on the consumer side of helping people with financial education
Right.
and these sorts of things. So how do we translate that, and how do we get them to do this on the business side is just exciting to me. So
I would venture to guess that if a credit union took a look at their accounts, chances are there are probably small businesses that they're helping,
yeah,
just because of a personal account, right? If
yeah,
you're a solopreneur, or just
right,
an organization that's owned by one individual, I'm sure there's probably a lot of personal accounts that are being leveraged for businesses as well. So I
yeah.
would I would wonder if credit unions if they took a look at that, they would discover that, you know, we're already doing this. We're already helping small businesses. And what can we do more? What can
Or
we do more to support them?
yeah, or their competition is. And
Yeah.
their competition isn't necessarily the next door community bank. The competition is online fintech lenders like OnDeck,
Yeah.
Capitus, or Kabbage from American Express. And their business models are to have rates that are very, very high because they have such high default rates there. And the average business member doesn't really care that they're going to pay that higher rate. They're just concerned about what their monthly payment is. So as long as they
Mm,
see that their monthly payment is something that they can afford, they'll take that loan in a matter of minutes. They'll get funded the next day, and they'll be very happy to move forward there. But I was talking to a credit union yesterday that's going to be launching a product for commercial and industrial loans, non-SBA loans. And their chief deposit officer was asking me, Dave, how do you think we go to market? And one of the first things I mentioned is, hey, go to your core and have your IT team just do a search. They have a very robust BI team at this credit union. To find out who's paying OnDeck or Capitus, or
yeah.
making a payment that's sub 750, sub 900, and see who they're making that payment to, and go to them and say, we'd like to offer you something better. Because imagine the power that you as a credit union going to a small business owner and saying, hey, I bet you're paying around 30% for that loan. And I know your payment is $800. What if we could lower that by $200 a month? What if we could charge
Right.
you an interest rate and maybe make the loan longer for 15%, or go to the max of 18 if that's what you want to do?
Hmm.
Huge value there. I mean, tremendous value for the credit union that they, gain a profitable piece of business, sell a profitable product, but also for the business member that my financial institution cared enough about me to make me an offer that was truly compelling to my business and meaningful.
Hmm. Yeah. And just the nature of just having all of that access in one location,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There's so many more advantages, and the stickiness that exists, with offering these services to these small businesses. They already have an account with you. That's on the personal side. Let's explore the business side as well, and just broaden that relationship, and engage with them in a little bit different way.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So exciting. All right, folks, for the novice and the pro, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.